Broadcasting from Orchard Park, New York,
and Boca Raton, Florida,
it's the Freight 360 podcast. From freight broker sales tips to sports talk, this podcast is all about helping you grow as a freight broker. We're your hosts, Nate Cross
and Benjamin Kowalski.
Let's talk freight. All right, episode 155. Welcome back, everybody, to the Freight 360 podcast. Ben, we got it all today. We got sports. We got a non-compete article. We got how to prospect and get new shippers, and we got listener Q&A. It's going to be action-packed, full of everything. But welcome back, everybody. Make sure to check out all of our other content. We're dropping new stuff every single week. Blogs, videos, podcasts, newsletters, you name it. And keep referring us to your friends. We're growing, man. I was telling you earlier, I had somebody call me up the one day, and they're like, Nate, my YouTube star. And I was like, please don't ever call me that. But hey, we're having fun with it. We're having a good time. What's new, man? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Can't wait for fall. No, football season's around the corner. Hopefully some better weather is in store for us down here because I am tired of sweating my ass off every day.
You know what? Today, so it's like 75 and sunny here today. And I was outside. I had to run to the the town like tax office to drop off stuff for this. We just moved. And I was walking outside to the door and I was like, it is really nice out today. And I'm like, what's the temperature? And I look at my watch and it's sunny and 75, like Joe Nichols says. But yeah, I don't blame you, man. I know my wife she's like, I think pumpkin spice is out now at all the coffee places. And I'm like, oh God, it's already fall.
Oh, I heard the commercial like 2 days ago from Dunkin'. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But good stuff, man. Good stuff. Wait, real quick on sports. Preseason is wrapped up. If you guys didn't hear anything about the Bills, the punt god, as he was named, Matt Araiza, made headlines for some of the wrong reasons involving misconduct in his college years and was quickly released by the Buffalo Bills. And I don't think he'll be seeing a single NFL game the rest of his life. But we did sign... I think we got a local guy that came from the Titans, if I read it correctly. I don't know if that was official or not yet, but that was the talks, is that we're going to have a veteran punter coming to Buffalo that's actually from Western New York. So, yeah, there's nothing this weekend for football, but then it'll be next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday is your opening match, my Buffalo Bills against the Super Bowl champions, the LA Rams. So Bills are favored by a couple points there.
That should be
good stuff.
Some news in golf. Rory won the FedEx Cup, so he won the Tour Championship on Sunday. It was a really good final round, too. I think Scottie Scheffler was like 4 or 5 strokes ahead starting the day, and then Rory ended up winning it. This is his third time, so he's the only person to win the FedEx Cup 3 times. Total earnings for this year ended up being like $28 million. He had a hell of a year when it was all said and done, money-wise.
Imagine if he was in the LIV League.
So to that point, Cameron Smith made news this week that he's going to be signing with LIV. So, I mean,
he's the young kid with the mullet, right?
Yeah, he's number 2 ranked golfer in the world. And previously, the highest ranked golfer LIV had signed was Dustin Johnson, and he's only like 18th in the world. And Cameron just won the British Open, which is like the holy grail of golf. So, I mean, when the guy literally holding my mind just went blank, the claret jug, right, is going to be going to play for, the LIV Tour. It's going to be interesting. They actually have a pretty good field now. So,
did they say what he signed for?
No, in fact, I don't even know that he announced it formally. It was all over the news, I think, kind of like this morning and yesterday. But he had said, like, I'll announce it when I announce it. And I don't know that I don't know that he formally did, or like he's like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it looks like he's a part of the field and hadn't really formally announced it, but will.
Well, good luck to him, man. Cam Smith. I didn't even know who that dude was until last year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, good stuff. Let's give a shout out to our friends over at DAT, and we're going to hop into it.
Yeah, taking the guesswork out of freight with DAT. The DAT Load Board Network is the largest on-demand freight marketplace in North America. connecting freight brokers with available capacity on any lane. Grow your business with tools that allow you to find new business partners. Plus, you can quickly qualify and onboard new carriers. With the industry's leading freight rate data, you can make clear and confident pricing decisions. Check out the show notes for a free month of DAT Power, Express, or Trucker's Edge.
Definitely. All right. Our article today, and this comes from our friends over at Freight Waves. There's a link in the show notes if you want to read it. It's titled, where is it? TQL's non-compete hurts ex-employees' job prospects, lawsuit claims. So I want to set the stage here, Ben. Let's go back 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. Pandemic shuts down just about the entire world. Everything comes to a screeching halt. TQL, in their phenomenal fashion, decide to lay off 700 or so employees and then serve them like immediately with their non-compete. So it's like, hey, we have to let you go because we can't, we're not making any money, but you can't really go work anywhere else. So good luck. So yeah, they got a lot of flack for that. Man, there's nothing illegal about doing what they did. It's a matter of ethics, right? Like, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral or ethical. And, like in my opinion, non-competes, I'm not a huge fan. Non-solicitation, different story, right? Hey, go work. Just don't steal my business, right? Best of luck to you. Sorry things didn't work out. Just don't steal don't steal my customers. So here's what happens, and I want your take on it. So this guy worked at TQL, and it said, 14 years, right?
Yep.
He left and went to another transportation company, got served, I think, with something about a year ago in regards to that from TQL. And then he's looking at taking a job at an insurance company. And basically the recruiting.
It happened the other way around. Like when I read it looks like he went to go get a job and was interviewing for a position at an insurance company at USI, one of the largest insurance companies in the country. And it said he was turned down for the job in insurance because I guess
TQL's general counsel called the insurance company and said it was going to be a bad idea. It's gonna be bad for our relationship.
Yeah. Yep. And then it said he then went to go work for an asset-based company because they didn't have a brokerage, and he felt like that wouldn't be a competition with TQL because the carrier actually works with TQL. So he's going to work with an asset company and had worked there for the past year, but then they added that asset company to the lawsuit, and then he resigned, and then they added them to the lawsuit.
Yeah. My favorite part about this, so this guy's brother is an attorney, and that's who's actually filing the lawsuit. But I'm just going to read it verbatim. So the freight brokerage, and it's TQL in this case, their overbroad language and the non-compete is so expansive that it would prohibit him from even driving for DoorDash. Because it states you can't work for a competing business defined as any person, firm, corporation, or entity that is engaged in shipping, third-party logistics, freight brokerage, truck brokerage, or supply chain management services in the continental United States for 1 year after leaving TQL. It's pretty broad.
Yeah, here was the line too that I just found that you were referring to. So with the insurance company, it said, USI, headquartered in Valhalla, New York, is one of the largest insurance brokerage and consulting firms in the world. However, employment talks with Patterson ended 2 weeks later after Austin spoke with Chris Brown, TQL's general counsel. According to court documents, Austin was told that hiring Patterson would hurt USI's business relationship, as TQL is a 20-year client of USI. That's it.
So the guy that was hiring him, the manager that was looking to hire him, also was an ex-TQL guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which was interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, that's bullying right there. It wasn't even like they tried to sue him. They interfered with him trying to go work for an insurance company. It's just so wild.
Yeah. I think truth this.
But yeah. I mean, hey, I don't know, man. like I said, I'll give you an example right now, like some other stupid non-compete things that I've seen. And I was just told a couple weeks ago I'm going to be getting subpoenaed in a TQL lawsuit from a previous company that I used to work for. Um, so you can add that to the checkbox or the laundry list of non-compete stupidity that I will have been wrapped up into. But I literally have a current agent and a prospective agent that both are in a similar situation. And it doesn't look like anything will come of it, but in both cases, I won't say like the company names or anything, but they were previously 1099 independent contractors for a freight brokerage, right? And with being an agent or an independent contractor, you really don't have like exclusivity or non-competes, stuff like that, because you're a contractor. The funny thing here is they both were being treated like an employee while being classified and paid as a contractor. So like they weren't having employment taxes paid half by the employer, but they were being told you have to work in this office. You have this goal to hit. You have these hours that you have to be here. So they're being treated like an employee, but they're being paid like a contractor. And then they're, trying to be sued like an employee with a non-compete. And it's just, I always tell people a non-compete is more of a scare tactic than anything. If you want to go and take a customer that you feel is rightfully yours, that's a different conversation. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about going to work somewhere else in the industry.
Yes.
That's it. It's like going from McDonald's and working at Wendy's or Burger King.
Well, and here's the other issue that I kind of have with this is like a principle, and I get both sides. And again, I've had conversations with, company owners that are like, look, it's very difficult when you're spending a lot of money to train people and then they just go and work somewhere else, right? And like, I get it. I can get both sides to some degree, but also like, again, there are almost no other industries really where like, let's just say the work environment, like and in this example, right, the article goes on to say like he has like 4 or 5 kids, he has a young family, and his just work-life balance was out of whack. He had been a broker for 14 years, and the guy was a senior LAE, which means he was making at least $20K a week in GP to get that title. So making significant profit, goes and takes a more of a salary position. His work-life balance gets worse. I mean, he's been working in the industry 14 years. Clearly, he's pretty good at it, probably very good at it to reach those levels. But like where he was working wasn't providing the work-life balance. But why should somebody like that have to change careers, right, to protect the interests of, a multi-billion-dollar organization? Like the reality is like he's not really a threat. He wasn't trying to take business, and most people aren't. Like you said, they just maybe necessarily want to work in a different environment for a different company. And to not allow people to work in their chosen profession, I feel like is not ethical.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember we talked to Trey about this. I'm a big proponent of people getting experience in different types of organizations throughout their career. I think it's a developmental factor. Mm-hmm. So like, I've worked at I've worked at a $1 billion plus company, and I've worked at a, $500 million company, and I've worked for, a $50 million company, right? You go from thousands of employees to, less than 50, and then somewhere in the middle there. And it's cool because you get experience with a lot of the different intricacies that go with those size and scale of businesses. And it builds you to be a better person, kind of a better, well-rounded member of that, team member in that organization. So I'm all about it. I mean, I don't like when I see somebody that like has 4 different jobs in the last 2 years. It's like, okay, were you there long enough to, make a positive impact? But if you see somebody make a move, 7-8 years apart, and they've, it's cool because they bring something cool to the table.
Well, also
14 years, and they're like, no, you can't do it. You can't grab DoorDash.
It also, if you don't let employees, like the free movement of employees, it also doesn't keep companies honest. Because one of the things in capitalism is you've got to pay a market rate, otherwise somebody goes somewhere else. Well, if they can't go anywhere else, then you can also pay them whatever you want because they don't have a choice, right? Like, and I feel like that's the other very unethical aspect of some of these, that companies use them to retain employees and also hold their wages low because they know they're not going to come back and go, well, hey, I got a better offer, match this or I go. They just basically eliminate that entire risk and just use the courts to uphold it, kind of as a bully.
That's exactly what it is. What else did it have in here? Let's see. The big problem with TQL's non-compete is that it's drafted so broadly, everyone knows it's overbroad and won't be enforced as written. And courts have held that it is overbroad and can't be enforced as written. But Ohio, where all the lawsuits take place, has a doctrine that authorizes courts to reform overbroad non-competes. So I mean, dude, they're playing the system. It's
Yeah.
wild. And it says like there is no clearly defined line, and then to make matters worse, there's a one-way fee shifting provision in the contract that says if TQL sues under the contract and prevails, the employee is liable for TQL's attorney's fees. And
Hmm.
so it's like holding a gun to the head of people to expose them to potentially ruinous liability if they guess wrong about how the non-compete will be enforced.
Well, that's the hardest part too. Like you and I have both had to deal with these personally, and like the harder issue is like the document doesn't mean anything, so you have to pay an attorney to have it interpreted, and even that is a gray area based on where and what's going to happen and what precedents are, right? Like so, the agreement you should be able to refer to it to know what you can and can't do, but the reality is it's written so broad that it really has almost no value. The only value it has is in you can take it to an attorney and then have to pay up front to find it even interpreted to determine where you're at even in the scenario in the system.
Yeah. The last thing I want to add too is if anyone's ever served a cease and desist, that is not you being sued. That is also not a court ordering you to stop working. That is an attorney's opinion on a piece of paper stating, I
Yes.
think that you should stop doing what you're doing. But it's
Mhm.
a scare tactic. And someone gets there
Yeah.
and they're like, oh my God. But that it's serving its purpose if they get at least one person to stop right there. So, and they can be very expensive to go back and forth. All
Absolutely.
right. Well,
Man, why don't you
in
throw a
other
shout
news,
out?
we've got a new exciting thing upcoming here. So we when we talk about vendors and companies that we endorse and that even sponsor us, we take it very very seriously. And recently we're adding Blue Book Services to our list of trusted partners, and we're going to have some folks coming on over the next 3 or 4 months here to talk a lot about produce and Blue Book's all the cool stuff that it can do to help you prospect and check credit and all that good stuff there. So Blue Book is a new sponsor of the show here, and like I said before, we would never ever endorse a company or a service if we didn't truly believe in it. I could tell you, we use Blue Book at Pierce. We do a lot for credit reporting, credit vetting. You can use it for prospecting leads and stuff like that. So without further ado, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Blue Book. Blue Book Services is the resource you need if you're transporting fresh produce. Their online database contains thousands of companies throughout the produce industry's supply chain. You can easily search their database to generate new sales leads. Blue Book's credit ratings help you avoid companies with high credit risk, and their team can help resolve disputed loads. To learn more, go to producebluebook.com and click join today. That's producebluebook.com. More to come with exciting stuff from Blue Book there. So I'm excited for that. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and we haven't had a lot of content that's produce centric, and that'll be helpful to
Mhm.
have some experts on.
Absolutely. And especially when everybody's looking for new prospects and higher margin loads. I mean, this is a great place to look. There's a lot of free resources on there as well. Give you some great information on commodities and just what's going on in the produce industry and what commodities are coming into season and what you should prospect. So even if you're not looking to sign up, but you're looking for some things to prospect and some industry news, they've got a great newsletter that you can sign up for in there as well.
Yeah, it's good. It comes out, I think, twice a day, or at least once a day. I think it's twice a day. And keep in mind too, if you sign up for Produce Blue Book, we're not making money off of it. We endorse their
Yeah.
services, and I can tell you, I personally use it at Pierce, and it's a great tool. And then they got all different options too, based on if you're a one person show versus a larger organization. So good stuff. All right, today's topic. This came from a listener question, but we get a lot of these similar ones. So we want to give a deep dive on it. It is how do I find shippers and close them as a new broker? Probably the number one. I would say if you generalized our questions, that's probably the number one question. How do I get customers?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we can kind of take this through a few different steps. We're going to assume that you already have a general level of knowledge of freight brokerage, because it's really not smart to go out there and try to prospect new business if you don't understand the industry that you're working in. So let's assume you're trained and you understand this industry. And I'm just going to go through like a kind of the process, and then we can break it down and analyze each part. But you've got to you have to get a list of leads. Then you have to contact these leads, and then you go through a series of follow-ups until you can then convert this lead to a customer. And then your goal is to grow that customer relationship and continue to add more customers to it. It's a pretty generalized process there, right?
In a nutshell.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning, right? Where do you find prospects? What kind of prospects should you do? Best practices. I want to also, if you guys are fairly newer to Freight 360, I think it's episode 77, right? Prospecting with a purpose. Very, very good topic there that'll break down the what we call it, like pooling together your leads, right? So check that out if you want a deep dive into that part of prospecting. But so where can you gather leads from, and what are some of the best practices? I would tell you to try and start with a niche or a certain area of the market, right? It could be commodity based. It could be geographically based, but it shouldn't just be like, hey, let me get a steel shipper from Pennsylvania, and then an onion farm out in Idaho, and then an apple farm in Washington, and a freight forwarder in LA, and then a warehouse in Laredo, Texas. You don't want to just be all over the place. The goal is to have a similar group or some kind of a genre that you're going to try to find leads from. So maybe all open deck stuff, or all fresh food, or fill in the blank. Yep.
And I think we'll go in a little bit deeper in the group. I want to go through some places where we can find them. In fact, I'm going to pull these, Nate, right off of the class we teach for the TIA on how to find shippers, where we've got the bullet points in there.
Yep.
So first one, we've got everyday items, meaning the grocery store, your house, what you drive past, literally looking around you, right, at just the things, and like looking at how they ship, right? I mean, everything in your house has likely got to where it was on a truck at some point or another, right? From your computer to your desk to the refrigerator in here, this couch, that TV, everything in your office, right?
And what I love about this, it's not even just, I have a can of Pepsi in front of me, only a prospect Pepsi. It gets your brain thinking like, I have a can of Diet Pepsi in front of me. That's food and beverage, right? That could be bottled water. That could be beer. That could be liquor. That could be pop or soda or Coke, whatever you call it, depending on where you live in the country. It could be all kinds of stuff. Like I've got an agent right now that she does beer. She does like sparkling water. She's in that beverage and that whole industry, and she's really good at it because you end up using a lot of the same types of carriers, and you're on a lot of the same similar lanes, and there are
same
a lot
requirements,
of them the
same procedures, exactly. Same loading requirements. They tend to have similarities, right?
Yep. Maybe it's food. Maybe you think, I have a salad in front of me. You're like, there's lettuce, there's carrots, and you start thinking about all this different produce and stuff in there, and that'll give you an idea. It just gets you thinking.
Yep. And again, just walking around, we used to do this again to just get other ideas, to get your mind around it, to just start just finding different things to talk about. Again, like just walking to the grocery store, taking pictures of the labels, just going and researching them and giving them a call, right? It can be as simple as that. The thing we talked about in prospecting with a purpose is finding something that interests you, because again, your prospecting calls, you're primarily going to be asking questions. Pick something you want to learn about, that you want to understand more about, right? Maybe it's your hobby is playing hockey, right? I don't know, start prospecting people that manufacture hockey skates and the wheels for hockey skates and hockey sticks, and the people that manufacture the tape for hockey sticks and pucks and the gear and all of that stuff, right? And almost any interest you have, there is likely something you can prospect and go towards.
Yeah. So like think about, I'll give you two examples. Think about somebody that absolutely loves, like you said, hockey, right? And they start looking at the raw materials that are used to make the skates. They look at, who makes the laces, or actually, it could be the actual companies that ship or handle the transportation for some of these retail outlets or some of these big companies, right? They're going to love it. They're going to be passionate about it. And they're not going to be pissed off if they have a bad phone call, because they're like, hey, I got to talk to somebody that works in this area of the market that I'm really passionate about. So now think about somebody else. Let's say you have somebody that is very like green. They want all electric vehicles and renewable energy, and they are anti-fracking. Don't go prospecting oil pipe and like fracking type stuff because it's not going to interest you. The polar opposites, but it just kind of breaks it down Barney style of the two different scenarios. You should pick something that you like.
Right. I mean, I knew somebody one time that like they were playing beer pong over the weekend. You work with a lot of kids that are just out of college, right? They went and started prospecting the companies that manufacture the cups for beer pong. One of the accounts turned into like a few $1 million a year just shipping the cups that people use in beer pong, right?
Solo cups and all that. Look at that.
It doesn't have to be like some high level, super expensive piece of equipment. Like most things ship on a truck, right? And again, you're never going to be able to determine whether or not it is a good prospect until you ask the questions and have the conversations. The one thing I want to point out is it is impossible to find the right leads before you have the conversation. I can't tell you how many people I work with, we have as clients or that we talk to that are like, well, I'm just going to spend more time on better calls. Like that's not possible. I know everybody only wants to call 10 to 20 people that they're actually going to have a good conversation with every day. But the reality is you're going to have to call hundreds to get a handful to even answer. You cannot just call the better customers.
I will say as a caveat, you will get more efficient as you get more experience under your belt. You'll know, you'll see a certain customer, you'll be like, probably not going to spend my time on this one because I know these other 4 companies that are in the similar space and they don't operate the way that would be a good fit for our company, right?
Yep.
So I think, and you'll get better you'll be more efficient with your asking of questions, and your personality will feel more natural, and you'll just have better calls overall. And that comes with time. But yeah, to your point, you can't just do 10x more research and eliminate 90% of the bad leads. Doesn't work that way.
And I like the analogy, right? Like prospecting. I always have this visual in my head of like this cartoon prospector from like the 1800s with like a pick going up into the mountains. So literally dig for gold, like a prospector, right? Guess what? The phone call and the conversations are the equivalent of digging a hole to see if there's gold. You can't just walk around and just dig where the gold is. You've got to dig until you find the gold. That is the act of prospecting. That's why it's called that. That's your questions. They are your shovel. They're your pick. That's what's going to tell you whether or not there's something valuable below the surface.
Exactly. But 2, 3, 4 years down the road, when you've been doing it a while, you'll be able to swing that pick a little bit better and break through the rubble a lot faster. But yeah, you still have to go through the same general process. What else we got on the list?
We got databases. So you've got Hoover's, Chamber of Commerce, Produce Blue Book, Zoom Info, also Reference USA. And I know that's changed and I keep calling it what it used to be. But if you go
if you look it up, it'll show you the new name. I forget what it is too.
But if you go through your local library and you look up, like, I think it's either databases or like resources. If you've got a local library card, you can get to it. And it's a free version. It's similar to Hoover's. And it will give you every company under every SIC and NAICS codes. Those are the codes that are used to classify companies. And what that helps you do is it also helps you understand, like to your point, if you are later in your career and you've been in this a few years, you know which commodities tend to be a good fit for your company, what you ship and what you're good at. If you've got a few customers that are very profitable, find out their NAICS, which is the North American Industry Classification System. You find that number, there's one associated with every company type, and then throw it into these systems. You will then find every other company in North America that is classified the same as the customer that you're shipping with, that you're making money with. So you can go deeper into these niches without having to randomly search companies in Google. It's a great tool.
I like the like trade show list too. So like if there's or even like association list. So I went to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies, like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. And what they did is every single vendor that was there, whether they were a motor carrier, a freight broker, a shipper, a service provider of some sort, they have this list compiled, and you can get, you get that list. Like sometimes it's published, sometimes you only get it if you go to the trade show, but that gives you literally just, maybe you find like the top 75 or the, 75 apple farms in the Northwest, right? And they're going to be in some association. Boom, right? They're all on a list. You just got 75 leads right there.
Well,
so those lists are great.
Yeah, and I want to point out, so for all of our listeners out there that are working at larger brokerages, it's just more easy to see this in a bigger company. But if you got one of these lists, we would always pull up like the trade show list, right? Or exactly what you're talking about. Let's say there's 50 companies on there. If the first 25 on there are all active customers, that doesn't mean it's a bad list. It means it's a good list. Because again, if most of the people on your list are already working with your customer, that's telling you it's a good fit for your organization. So
Yep.
don't get discouraged. Keep going because the 26th, the 27th, the 28th are all your potential customers. Again, you don't want to stop before you dig deep enough. You don't want to be digging 30 inches down and the goal be 36 inches. Go a little bit farther, push a little bit farther before you give up.
Yep. What else?
I'm going to kind of round the last two or three out. So we've got Google, which is, finding companies, contact info, addresses, websites. I think kind of everyone knows how to use search engines at this point. Websites to kind of do some basic info to get some gauge on maybe volume or kind of what they're doing. But again, I would caution that you don't want to be looking at every company's website every time you make a phone call, because all of these things add up. And we'll talk about this in a minute, the grouping together you referred to a minute ago. But the reality is if you take a minute and a half to 2 minutes to look at a company website every time you make a phone call, and you're going to expect to make 75 to 80 phone calls a day, right? That is like 2 to 3 hours a day you're spending looking at websites of companies with people that didn't answer the phone. So you're spending a tremendous amount of time and not getting a return on that investment. Yes, you've got
Well,
to
I'll
know a
say
general idea, but
what I like effective ways to use websites. If a company, let's say a freight forwarder, has 60 branches, use their website to find out the contact info for all 60 branches to
yes,
prospect that way. It's efficient. Another one, if you use a website to find out who their customers are, who their suppliers or vendors are, and those are potential leads, it's a great way to collect a couple dozen real quick. But yeah, to your point, that's the paralysis analysis or whatever it's called. If you spend too much time trying to get all the information that you don't really need before you pick up the phone and dial that number.
yep. Last one, LinkedIn. It's going to help you identify the positions within the company you're prospecting, the titles, and some names. Having a name makes it much easier to get through a gatekeeper or to get somebody to be receptive on the other end than calling and asking for that person. Because
Let me ask
again,
you this. So I see, as always, we run probably the largest, most active Facebook group for freight brokers that's out there today. And we've done a good job at cleaning it up with spam. But I've seen a lot of people try like advertising, selling a shipper list. What are your thoughts on a shipper list?
well, I would ask a rhetorical question. Would you ever want to call through the exact same list that somebody else is calling?
Well, my whole thing on is it's not going to be an effective tool. But I think if you're looking for places to strike out but get in the rhythm of making calls, it's probably a great way to get used to rejection.
It is. And if you haven't made any calls yet and you can get one for free and you've got names and phone numbers, it is a great place to start. Because, I mean, I think honestly, if you've not done this job at all, even if you've done sales before, your first 500 calls are garbage. I'd say your first 1,000, maybe your second 500, you're getting close to your voice, but your first 500 to 1,000 phone calls are just practice. It's learning how to ride a bike the first time. You're going to keep falling off and scraping your knees until you find and really start to understand what you're doing. And
Yep.
again, I mean, if you're making 80 calls a day, even 100 round numbers, that's only like 10 days of phone calls before you're hitting 500. So you're not even like 2/3 of the way through your first month in this job. And you should really be putting up numbers that are close to that. So it's not as long of a time as you think it is.
Think about when you've gotten random calls made to you before. You can smell out right away a brand new, unseasoned phone
Yep.
salesperson. And then I've had and I'm like, oh, this is so annoying. I try not to hang up, but I just try to get them off the phone as fast as possible because it's not an enjoyable call and I don't really want to hear what they have to say. But I've had people just cold call me for random stuff. It might be like a tech vendor that wants to sell or brokerage something or whatever. And there's some of these sales reps that are so good that they make it enjoyable to have a conversation with them, even if you're not a good fit for them. They get that over time and experience by just knowing how to talk to people. And you have to get
Absolutely.
those bad ones out of the way before you can become that really good sales rep.
100%. So let's talk a little bit about closing shippers and what we were referring to earlier, right? Grouping and best practices and what you can do to increase the likelihood or the percentage of people you're calling that you actually close, right? The first one you pointed out, I think, is huge. And in fact, I'm going to start by saying what you shouldn't do before we're going to talk about what you should do. What you shouldn't do is search around the internet to find a company, read about the company, and then make a phone call and then start the whole process over again.
Right.
Because again, one, you're not really getting any better at any one of the specific things. You will over a very long period of time, but if you look at anything you learn, we learn through repetition, right? If you're doing 10 things all together, it'll take you a very long time to get good at all 10 of those things. But if you just do one thing for 2 hours, you will get better and fall into a rhythm in that 2 hours. You will hear different things. You will say different things. You'll get improvement on that one activity. So lead generation is its own skill set, its own task. It is not the same as prospecting, making the phone calls, right? Two different jobs. They should be done at two separate points of time. And that's how you get into a better rhythm. And you really just improve on both of those skills. When you're just doing lead research and just adding things to your CRM, you get very good at researching where to find things, how to find companies that are similar, how to find other companies in the same market that are related to it, right? You get better at that. Same with prospecting. If you're picking up the phone or swinging a hammer over and over again, you get very good at hitting a nail if you're doing it 100 times in a row.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you an example. I was literally thinking about this like 2 weeks ago. So we just moved in this house, and we wanted to change out some of the hardware. So like door hinges, for example, there was like some old beat up gold ones, and we just wanted like a new matte black finish. So at first I was like, I open up a package, I unscrew everything, screw the next one in, and then I open up another package, and I was like, man, this is taking forever. Then I was like, hold on, let me open up all the packages, set them where they have to go,
put all the screws in a bucket,
all the undrilling and all the redrilling. And dude, I hammered it out in like 75 hinges in like, I don't know, an hour and a half, because you start doing things repetitively instead of one after another, and then repeat the cycle.
So it's so funny. Like that's really where that I learned that was my dad was a painter, right? Painted houses and commercial buildings. And when I was in high school and in college, I went and painted door frames and doors and had to hang doors like that for like hours on end. And like when you do one at a time, it takes forever and you don't get very good at it. But like when you take all of the doors off, take all of the hinges off as the next set, then sand all of the doors, then paint all, you get very good and they get done much faster rather than take one door off, take all the hinges off, sand it again.
Yeah.
Group them together. You get much better at it.
Yep.
And you get much better at it faster, right?
Now let's talk about the batching your calls, right? So now we're past lead gen. Now we're into your prospecting, your actual dialing time. We recommend grouping or batching your calls into like or similar types of prospects, right? So maybe it's all lumber companies, maybe it's all steel companies, maybe it's all potato shippers, or it's all freight forwarders, or whatever, right? Then or it could be, I'm going to hit up building materials in the Southeast, or I'm going to look up generic produce in the Northwest, right? And the reason that we recommend this is they all have things in common, and you'll learn from each good call, something to add to the later calls. And you're in the same mindset. When you're talking about a bunch of produce shippers in a certain region, guess what they have in common? They have the same seasonality as each other. Whereas if you call, an avocado place down by the Mexican border and one that's further up north, they ship at different times of the year, right? So same thing with like potatoes or cabbage, or, you name it, right? They have different things. So you want the ones that have things in common to all be grouped together. So like, for example, if it's a commodity that gets imported and they all have the same tariff impact or the same supply chain bottleneck impact over the last couple of years, they're going to have very similar problems, very similar needs, and you're going to learn from one person's experience or issue something that you could then apply to a call later in the day. So I absolutely love the batching grouping concept.
And they also have similar issues too, right? And to give our listeners kind of an example on how you use this, right? Like, let's say you have no customers. And let's say your first phone call was with ABC Pipe Supply. And Jimmy, you're talking to Jimmy, and he's like, yeah, everything's been pretty well, but I've had a really tough time, getting our pipe out to Odessa. I haven't had a lot of drivers available willing to get out there. So if you got somebody, let us know. Okay, great. Maybe we don't get on board, but I learned what one of this guy's issue is, right? Now, the next call, maybe an hour later, Cindy at, CBA Pipe Supply answers just outside of Houston. Talking a little bit. Hey, Cindy, just curious, are you guys running into any issues? I know I was talking to Jimmy over at ABC, and they've been having a tough time getting trucks out to Odessa. Are you guys running into the same issue? Now, the second person I talk to is going to assume that Jimmy's my customer, is going to assume that I'm moving loads to Odessa, is going to assume all of these things and infer all these things from like one little tidbit I got from my prospecting call. So like I seem way more involved in their industry. It almost as if like I'm working with somebody they already know because they may have heard of that company. I'm using names.
Competitor.
It's a competitor. Now they're thinking, well, hey, maybe this guy, if he knows my niche and he really is working on our market, maybe this guy can help us, right? It adds credibility. And again, that's why you're able to build on your conversations and use this information on later calls. And then the same thing the next day, right? So maybe you might not prospect that same commodity for 2 or 3 days later. If you got 2 or 3 good conversations where you've learned one thing, those are 3 anecdotes or stories you can use in your prospecting calls later that week, right? So you are becoming more valuable. You're adding more value to the conversations and you're becoming more of a consultant and less than just a truck on the other end of the phone.
Absolutely. And some other, I want to add in some tips here because I know we don't have all day to go through everything when it comes to this, but follow up. I want to stress follow up. So if you can end a conversation with something that you have a reason to call them back for, like, hey, I'm gonna quote this for you, or I'm gonna see, I don't know, anything, right? Get that locked down before the call ends, so your prospect, you have a reason to give them a call back and not just, hey, I'm going to call back to check in. Also, have some kind of way to schedule on your end a reminder for that follow-up call or that follow-up email or whatever it might be, right? Using your CRM effectively. It could be a few days, right? It could be the next day. If you get a voicemail, don't just wait 2 months and call them back then. Call them back 2 days later or the next day. But it's extremely important to make sure that you have a systematic method and some kind of, I don't want to call it a science, but you have some kind of organization behind your follow-up methods and the reason for your follow-up. You have anything you want to add on the follow-up stuff?
No, other than just to give some expectations. I mean, expect in the market we're in right now, expect it to be different than it was during the entire pandemic. If you came into the industry in the middle of the pandemic, the market we're in now is more of a traditional market than what it was then. So expect it to take longer to build a relationship. Expect to have to make more phone calls to get people to talk to you because from the shipper's point of view, they don't have as urgent of a need as they did in the market that was during the pandemic. It was much harder to find trucks. So again, expectations, expect to talk to a prospect between 8 to probably 15 times over a period of 2 to 3 months before you've quoted enough lanes that you're winning a load here or there, or that you've been onboarded, or that you've got enough of a relationship, but they're going to get you into their next bid, right? It's just a longer sales cycle in our industry. The upside is once you get them, you can do business with them continuously, indefinitely, hopefully. But the reality is it's going to take longer than it has during the pandemic. Expect that, and you won't be as frustrated.
Yeah. Also, expectation management. To add to that, there's no shortcut to getting through those first like 500 calls or whatever it's going to take you before you start getting better on the phone. You just have to do it. And don't be afraid to call it what you might think is a good lead because you're not ready for them yet. Because they're not. If you fumble on the phone or you sound like an idiot, they're not going to remember you when that call lasted 20 seconds or they hung up on you after 10 seconds or whatever. You can call them back. Call back down the road.
There is like zero cost or risk to screw ups because, again, they're doing their own thing. They're worried about their own jobs, their own problems, their own families, their own issues. They're not going to remember the 30-second phone call where you called and like stumbled through your words. A day from now, they're not even going to remember. In fact, we used to do this when we would call leads like at the bigger company and be like, if we really screwed up a call, just to test this would be like, all right, I'm going to call them the next day just to see if they would remember. And they almost never remembered, even the next day. So again, if you give something a week or two, the likelihood that they're even going to remember this is slim to none.
Yeah, I mean, dude, people's memories is funny. I've had people schedule a call with me, and then I call them. They're like, "Who's this again?" I'm like, "You booked this with me."
Yeah,
like I don't say that, but like I'm thinking that in my head. So yeah, we all got a lot going on, right? So it can be easy to let things slip or forget something. Any last thoughts on this before we head into our Q&A for the day?
I mean, I think we covered, where to find them, the basics and the fundamentals on how to build your pipeline, because that is how you close customers. Everybody thinks closing a customer is coming up with some magic sentence to get somebody to say yes. And the reality is it takes trust and rapport. And think of all the people in your life that you have trust and rapport with. It did not happen overnight. It happened
Yep.
over time.
And once you gain trust and rapport and they become a customer, then they could be a referral generator for you, and
Yep.
refer you to their vendors, their suppliers, some of their friends that work in the industry in a similar space as well. So, well, good stuff. We got a couple of questions today, but first, I'm going to give a shout out to our friends over at Lean. Lean Solutions Group is the industry leader in nearshore staffing solutions with offices in South America, including freight broker back office operations, accounting, technology development, business development, marketing, customer service, and many other positions. To learn more about the vast solutions that Lean has to offer your freight brokerage or agency, visit them on the web at www.leangroup.com. Our first question. I'm going to answer the second question first because I think it's a repeat. Can I be an agent from overseas? Short answer, yes.
Yes.
Realistic answer. It has become increasingly difficult for folks that are in different countries to get a good agent position in the U.S. I've got some friends that work at some of the bigger agent-based companies in the country, and they're starting to say, like, we're not taking anyone outside of U.S., Mexico, or Canada for a variety of reasons. I'm not telling you can't do it because you can, but some of the issues that we've seen as VPN conflicts, poor reliability of response time because they're in a different time zone. Not having the ability to legally sign a U.S. contract because you don't have a social security number or a tax ID. And there's all kinds of reasons, but I personally have agents that are not in the U.S. and they're great. These are people that they're good, they're responsive, there's no technology conflict for the most part, and if there is, we've been able to handle it. And it doesn't really matter where you live. If you're passionate about this industry and you do a good job and you're respectful, you can live in Europe or South America or it doesn't matter. So yes, you can definitely be an agent outside of the U.S. But there's been a lot of pushback from some of the bigger agent-based companies saying, we're going to try to avoid that if we can. It's also really hard to, like, I don't know. One of the things that I love to do with like a big agency is have some kind of like in-person interaction with them. And it's really hard to do with someone that lives, a 10-hour flight away. But it is what it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the same as yours. I mean, I have a lot of clients that are overseas. It's definitely doable. There's a lot of people that do it well, but it's just like anything else. There are definitely some more risks. It's just because they're outside of the US jurisdiction, right? So again, you also see, and again, as a generalization, tend to be some unethical, freight brokers that operate overseas. And a lot of them I've seen even in the past year, didn't even know they were doing things unethically. They were just trained poorly by somebody else. And again, like, that's not to say that, like, just because it's more prevalent overseas or that it's harder to enforce things, that it can't be done. I think it can. I think it can be done well. We work with a lot of clients and a lot of brokerages that have a lot of their staff overseas.
Yeah. I'll tell you from personal experience, I've had, like, I don't care where somebody's located, but I don't like being lied to about it. So, like, I've had someone that said, I'm in Chicago, right? And they onboard as an LLC from Illinois. And then next thing you know, you run into VPN conflict issues and they lied. They're not really in Chicago. They're in Pakistan or India. And it's like, we talked about this. I asked you up front so we can get ahead of this. And now I'm uncovering that you lied to me. It puts a bad taste in my mouth. I had the same thing happen recently with guys, and he's in Texas, he said. And then I talked through some of the technology things and, comes back to me a week later and says, well, sometimes I travel to Africa. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, actually, that's where I'm from. I'm from there. He's like, but I'm in Texas sometimes. I'm like, well, okay. At least that one was honest with me before, me having to find out he was lying. But yeah, I think it's just I've had people that gave a fake name, and then, you quickly realize that they're lying about that. And it's a lot of times it's like employees or sub agents, not the actual contract signing agent. But Yeah, I mean, it's just the ethical thing. But hey, capabilities wise, it doesn't matter where you're located. You could be really good at freight brokerage. There's
Yep.
for example, Eastern Europe has a lot of support teams that work with a lot of U.S. based brokerages. Colombia, obviously, Lean has a massive presence there. There's a lot of quality talent in that area that works in that space. So, yes, you can be an agent from overseas. It's a little bit harder to become a licensed brokerage. You got to establish a U.S. based LLC and get a tax ID, but it's doable. Still doable. All right, our second and last question here is: what insurance do I need to start in the heavy haul brokerage business? Well, it's not really any different than if acting as a freight broker, your insurance doesn't really necessarily change. Your requirements don't. Your customers might have different requirements, though. They might have different contractual requirements. They might want you to waive certain things, like waiver of subrogation. And the carriers you're going to be working with will likely have way higher requirements as well. Permits to haul things and higher insurance. The dollar value of the actual freight that they're hauling, whether it's a backhoe or a massive generator or something like that, they're going to have higher requirements. But as a broker, there's really no additional legal requirement for insurance that you need to have. It's just going to be, you're going to find yourself being forced to get additional insurance from your customers. So, same thing with hazmat. Like carriers have a much higher liability requirement for insurance, and then also in addition to that, there's I think you brought up last week the spill, the cleanup.
Yeah, cleanup on hazmat and some of those things. Yeah.
Same thing with non-owned equipment. So trailer interchange, if someone's moving someone else's trailer, or if you're moving brand new trailers or stuff like that, repositioning stuff. You don't have to really have anything, but people will put brokers are smart to put a trailer interchange agreement in place, and the carrier should have trailer interchange insurance. So there's those little nuances like that. So yeah, you definitely have more requirement to have knowledge and be able to be effective in that space, but not necessarily any legal insurance requirements to broker that.
Yep.
So, well, good stuff, man. Good episode.
Yeah, there was a lot
going on all day long, but I learned today that apparently the attention span of the American population is 15 to 30 seconds now.
Does
that blow your mind?
Yes, kind of, but not really, to be honest.
Referring to TikTok videos and all that, why they're so short. So thanks to all of you that listen to us for almost an hour once a week.
Fair enough, man.
Cool? I know we're gonna have we was talking with Lean. We're going to have an episode coming up with a guest from them or one of their someone recommended by them. Should be, I'm thinking, in the next month, and then definitely some produce and Blue Book talk coming up here. So I think 2 weeks from now we'll have our first Greg from Blue Book Services will be joining us to talk. Produce.
I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm super.
I think we're going to be doing a series. Yeah, we're going to be doing a whole series with Blue Book, and I think all that's going to be really good. We get asked a lot about what customers, what shippers to prospect, what's higher margin, what's high claim. We're going to be covering all of the ins and outs of that over the next quarter, actually through the rest of this year. So that's going to be pretty good. That's about it, man. I did hear something interesting the other day, and it really stuck with me. It was another business podcast, but it said most people think they need more intensity to make more money, but the reality is they need more consistency. And I think that really rings true for our topic today, right? Like how to find shippers and close more of them. I think a lot of people go at this where they're like, well, I'm just going to call 120 people today and really go at it. The reality is you'd be much better served to pick a number you're going to achieve and hit it every day and to incrementally increase it. Because we talk about this often, but I've literally only met one person in my entire involvement with freight brokerage that made the calls every day and didn't succeed. And they went on to literally be one of the most successful people in another sales industry. They just didn't happen to be a fit for the transportation side, but I've almost never seen it happen. I mean, and again, so if you're not where you're at, look at what you're doing consistently. Look at what your average calls are per week. If you're not averaging 60 to 70 calls per day, 4 days a week, and you're new in the first 6 months to a year of this, if you're not putting up 4 to 5K a week in gross profit, That's what's missing. That's how you get more customers. That's how you're going to grow your book. And for everybody out there, even if you were killing it during the pandemic, the amount of loads probably going through your brokerage right now is probably less than it was 6 months ago. And why is that? Because less loads are hitting the spot market. There were about 30% of the whole market hitting the spot market. Now you're seeing like 7 to 10% of that, depending on which commodities you're in, right? So again, less loads are hitting the spot market, less loads are available to be brokered. So you've got to build better relationships and deeper relationships and differentiate yourself from other brokers to succeed in this market. And there's no reason you shouldn't if you're putting the effort and you're doing it consistently.
Yep, I agree. It also just dawned on me that this will be the last recording before the Bills game Thursday night next week. So I got to make my predictions, man. I've been waiting like 6 months to make a prediction here. So Buffalo Bills at LA Rams Thursday, September 8th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. That would be 5:20 for all you West Coasters. Bills are current spread. The pick is Bills to cover negative 2.5. So it's expected to win by 3. Or more. The over-under is at 53. I'm going to call this a high-scoring game. I would take the over on 53, and I'm taking Buffalo not just to win, but to cover that 2.5-point spread. I think the Bills win it by like 6 or 7 to upset the reigning Super Bowl champs and to tell them, look who's the new big boys on the block here. So I'm taking the Bills I'm going to take them by 6. Bills by 6. So let me know what you think. Send me all that hate.
We shall see.
All right. What else you got to wrap it up here?
Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
And until next time, go Bills. That wraps up this episode of Freight 360. Check out the show notes for links to anything that we've referenced on this episode. And make sure to visit us online at freight360.net to see our entire library of episodes, videos, blogs, and more.
And make sure to check us out on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily and weekly tips and content. And if you'd like your question answered on the show, fill out the Contact Us form on our site, and we'll see you next week.